Welcome to the Sports Booth YouTube channel. It's Hughesy here. Luke's asked me to do a little bit of a breakdown of the Wallabies 35-man test squad that Dave Rennie has named to face England in the upcoming test series. Not a huge number of surprises in here, although there were definitely some, but Rennie promised to pick to form, and that seems to be just what he's done. And it looks like even Jed Holloway might get that elusive Wallabies cap. So let's sort of look through the roster here. So we've got Alan Alatoa. I'm going to massacre that last name. Tom Banks, Angus Bell, Quade Cooper, Pony Farmasuli, Falau Fainga, Nick Frost, Jake Gordon, Michael Hooper, Jed Holloway, Len Ikitau, Andrew Kellaway, Samu Karevi, Marika Korobetti, Rob Leota, Noah Lolosio, Lachlan Lonergan, Tate McDermott, Caden Neville, James O'Connor, Hunter Paisami, Izzy Parisi, Jordan Pataya, Matt Phillip, David Parecki, Pete Samu, Scott Seo, James Slipper, Darcy Swain, Taniela Tupou, Rob Valentini, Suliasi Vunivalu, Nick White, Harry Wilson, and Tom Wright. Now, I think the focus here is going to be sort of who is going to be fullback for the Wallabies. Now, if you haven't listened to our podcast, recommend you go download that now, wherever you can get good podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, elsewhere, on our YouTube channel as well. I sort of posed this question to Luke as well, and my thinking here is that I think Jordan Pataya should be named the starting fullback. Now, Tom Banks, you sort of know what you're going to get out of him, even though he can be inconsistent and he can make some boneheaded plays at times, can be a liability at the Wallabies level. He's a great Super Rugby player. I just don't think he's got what it takes to be a great fullback at the next level. May he prove me wrong. I'd be nothing. Wouldn't be upset to be proved wrong. However, Luke raised a good point as well that Banks is going overseas next year. He's not likely to be one of the three players brought in as the foreign players. We saw in this squad, we've got Karevi, Korobetti, and Cooper as the three foreign players brought in. Now, if any of those are likely to lose their spot, it's going to be Cooper due to age concerns more than anything. But I don't know if Dave Rennie's going to be really willing to use one of those three spots on Tom Banks. So other foreign-based players out there that he could probably spend the roster spot on better. So I think Jordan Pataya should be the natural look for the fullback and groomed as the fullback of the future, particularly with the World Cup coming up next year. Now, halfback is another interesting one. You've got three quality halfbacks there: Jake Gordon, Tate McDermott, and Nick White. Now, likely Tate McDermott is going to be the starter with one of either Nick White or Jake Gordon spelling him there. I could even see one of those two starting and then Tate McDermott coming on early in the second half as a bit of a change of pace kind of thing. I like this roster all around. I think the centers have got a huge amount of depth there with Karevi, Paisama, and Parisi. And I think the wingers have got a lot of depth as well with Korobetti, Tom Wright, Andrew Kellaway as well. Like I feel like there is a whole lot of talent in the sort of the outside backs for the Wallabies. The forward pack as well, particularly the front row, looks very strong. I really hope Jed Holloway can get a Wallabies cap for one. I missed out as well Suliasi Vunivalu as one of the potential wingers as well. So he's made the switch from league to union, and he's been looking for that Wallabies cap. So hopefully he can get it. He has a bit of X factor around him, as Luke likes to say. Now, looking in at the forwards as well, Michael Hooper there, obviously. Fraser McWright has been omitted from the squad, even though he's been in quite a run of form, as well as Dylan Peach and Mark Nawaka Nitawase for outside backs as well. It's hard when there is such depth at those positions, I guess, and yeah, it's hard to include those outside backs when you've got Korobetti being selected from overseas as well. Now, Fraser McWright, Dave Rennie has said that he could come into the squad if Hooper was to go down injured. I don't know if maybe you think that you want to have him in the 35-man squad anyway, but given that there's an Australia A squad going to be named as well, I think that is, I think Rennie is sort of allowing himself a bit more depth around the other part of the park. Isaac Rodder's missed out due to injury, which is a shame, as he's been in a good run of form as well. Play with what you've got there in terms of selection in the lock position, which is probably I would say lock and fullback are probably the positions of most concern for the Wallabies. Now, fly half is always going to be a bit of a question, and I think even with the fly halves they've named, Cooper, O'Connor, and Lolosio, you look across the Tasman to the All Blacks, and as good as those three players are, they're a step behind. I think. I don't think many people would disagree with me with Richie Mo'unga and Beauden Barrett. So, but I think they've got the best of what they could get in that fly half position with those three. I don't think there's much concern there because even though they might be a step behind Barrett and Mo'unga, they're still good players in their own right, and will still provide a good structure for this team. But I think the sort of holes in this team are fullback and lock, and nothing against any of the locks that they've mentioned, but that they've named in the team. But it is hard to, I guess, when you're missing Isaac Rodder, it is hard to compare it to the All Blacks, which is the Wallabies. The goal of the Wallabies is always to be compared to the All Blacks and to come out favourably in the comparison there. But I guess England. Look, I'm hoping for a good series. I think it'll be a good benchmark for the Wallabies to see where they're at with this roster, for Rennie to see how his players are coming together, particularly some of the younger guys like Jordan Petaia is 22, Noah Lolosio is 22 as well. These are guys that it should be next year when we're even Harry Wilson's 22 heading into the World Cup next year. This is when these guys need to really step up. I didn't even mention Angus Bells is only 21, but he's already played 16 tests, already has the resume of a veteran, basically. So I guess my hopes for this team are that they play to their strengths. They don't try and recreate what the All Blacks do. They look at where their strengths are, which has got to be in the centres, with the depths of the centres and the outside back, and look to play towards them. Don't play too conservatively. And I like the mix of experience and youth that this team has. The average age of the team is 27, which I think is a really good average age for the team. It's got that blend there, but you've also got your veterans like Hooper, Cooper, James Slipper as well. So my hope for this team is that they play their style. They don't play too conservatively, though. That's the other thing. I think Australian rugby needs sort of its own style. Not trying to recreate what the All Blacks do, but don't be afraid to take from what they do either, and recognize you're going up against a Northern Hemisphere team as well. So I think playing expansively for the Wallabies will be a good option. And you look at the Australian teams this year, I think the Waratahs did that very, very well with Parisi. So I would love to see Parisi as the starting outside center. I would love to see. I mean, it's hard because Hunter Paisami is so good, but I'd love to see Karevi at 12 and Parisi at 13. I think that would be a deadly combination for the Wallabies. I think injury and how Parisi's recovering from his injury will probably be the determining factor there. Paisami is a great, hard, heavy hitter as well, and would be really good in this matchup against the Northern Hemisphere team as well. So, any combination of the centers they come up with, I think would be great. I'm just personally very big Izzy Parisi fan, and would love to see him be one of the featured players for the Wallabies as he was for the Waratahs. So that's sort of my rough little breakdown there of the Wallabies squad. So some facts here from the Wallabies themselves. So as I mentioned, the average age is 27 of the team. The average caps is 26. The total number of caps is 905. There are 6 uncapped players. And the most capped player is Michael Hooper with 118. The youngest player in the team is Angus Bell at 21. The oldest is Quade Cooper at 34. And the breakdown of Super Rugby clubs and overseas clubs for the number in this team. Brumbies have got 15 players. Queensland Reds 7. The Waratahs 6. The Melbourne Rebels 4. Overseas clubs have got 3 players. And there are no Western Force players in this team. But that's going to do it from me on this little mini Wallabies roster reaction / breakdown. Good vibes coming from this team. I like the team that Rennie has named for England. The oldest rugby enemy of Australia, not the biggest rugby enemy of Australia. That's always going to be the All Blacks, but the oldest. And there's definitely it's got its own flavour, this rivalry, and I'd love nothing more than a whitewash of the English to go with those white jerseys. They love to not get dirty. So that's the reaction video. Make sure you like and subscribe. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Subscribe to the podcast as well for weekly podcasts from myself and Luke, breaking down all things rugby, rugby league, and other sports, including NFL and NBA. And yeah, catch you later.